following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys! This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Invisalign, trusted by over 500 NFL players for their winning smiles. And broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star. Now, your host, Nicole Hutchison.
All right, Cowboys Nation, welcome into Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Invisalign. I'm Nicole Hutchison, alongside Christy Scales and Jazz Monet. Ladies, how y'all doing?
All right.
It's a lovely Wednesday.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you see that they're putting up the Christmas tree on the plaza?
No.
They
Already?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a couple week process to get ready, and later in the month and is when the Christmas Spectacular takes place at Tostitos Plaza Friday and Saturday nights here at the Star in Frisco, starring the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders and Rhythm and Blue, and an appearance
Got the
by.
whole spiel ready.
Yeah, we'll hear all about it coming out of the first break.
I'm crying. No, I feel like I asked y'all if y'all was ready for Christmas last week. Are y'all ready for Christmas?
I'm not, but I'm okay with that. Like, this move was hectic for me, and so just like when it comes to the holidays, I'm just trying to give myself grace because I feel like I'm still catching up. So
Okay. Well, this team also wants to feel like they, deserve
like they're
some
catching
grace
up?
as well.
Oh, some grace.
Yes. But we're going to go through the injury report in a little bit once we get it over. Usually it comes around 4 o'clock, but haven't received it just yet. So we'll put that on pause for now. But the Cowboys, Eagles, they kick off on 3:25 this Sunday. When you talk about this matchup, this is a team, the Eagles specifically, who is, like I mentioned off cameras, I feel like they're hitting their stride as far as winning games. They've won their last 4 since the bye week. They do have a couple of key players banged up as well, just like the Cowboys. But specifically, overall, what's y'all's thoughts going into this game? Do you feel like the Cowboys, or how you guys are feeling about the Cowboys handling this team?
I think what's interesting about the Eagles right now is whether or not you consider them to be hitting their stride depends on who you talk to. Even among the Eagles fan base, there are some people who would agree with you that they're hitting their stride. There are some people who would point out, like Christy pointed out before we got started, that they haven't really been playing their best through the entire game. They let the Jags back in the game. They also had a period of time against the Saints where it seemed like the Saints were going to come back. You've got Eagles fans who are very frustrated with the decision-making of Nick Sirianni. There are some people who are like, they love the risk that he's taking. So, yeah, it just depends on who you talk to. Personally, I do, based on their trajectory, I do feel like they're hitting their stride. Yes, it is true that, they are kind of letting people back in games. They did the same thing last year. It was a little bit of a different scenario. This year, I think one of the things that's helping them out a lot is their run game. Last season, it kind of felt like Jalen Hurts was the bulk of their run game, and a lot of their success depended on Jalen Hurts being able to run the ball and them doing their thing with the tush push that kind of shortened the amount of yards that they needed to get per down, right? And now they've got an absolute monster in Saquon Barkley, who is absolutely changing the way that defenses have to handle their offense, and that seems to be what's making a big difference. And I know we're gonna talk about that later, so I have some numbers to point out. But yeah, I do think with them getting AJ Brown back, with the fact that Jalen Hurts has improved to this point in the season, he was having a big problem with turnovers. He seems to be playing a very clean ball now. Their offensive line is getting it together, and so yeah, it just feels like they're on an upward trajectory right now, and I feel like that's what a lot of people are seeing when it comes to the Eagles and feeling like they're hitting their stride and becoming one of the most dominant teams in the NFC.
Yeah, and I think that the way that they are on this winning streak when they're missing key pieces, yes, they do rely on their run game, second best in the league, no doubt about that, but playing without their left tackle, Jordan Mailata, who's been on injured reserve and missed the past few games. They're without Dallas Goedert, their tight end, and so the fact that they're able to keep it going has been impressive. Be interested with A.J. Brown, you mentioned, with the knee injury and leaving the game last week, but they were still able to get it done. The thing is, though, you mentioned Jacksonville. Jacksonville had a chance late in the fourth quarter with that game, and I think the angst that you referred to with the Eagles fans and Eagles media, and that's tough media base up there, tough fan base.
Absolutely.
But just that they're not closing it out and carrying it through in the fourth quarter and allowing these opportunities for opponents, some of these games shouldn't be that close. I think that's part of the angst.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's
this
where you
might
think
be
about. Go ahead.
I was going to say this might be a completely different conversation had it not been for an interception, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, good point with that.
And what I was going to touch on was this could be an advantage for the Cowboys because this is a team, the Cowboys don't start fast, but you get to the fourth quarter down the final minutes and they're fighting, and then the Eagles, they don't close. So this could be an interesting matchup there. But when you talk about Kellen Moore, who spent some time with the Cowboys, what's something that you guys have liked that he's done with this Eagles offense so far?
Playing to the strength. When you got Saquon Barkley, amazing how you can rejuvenate a career when you play behind a good offensive line.
Let's talk about it.
Because the Giants, that has been the Achilles heel for them the past several years is their O-line. Ask Daniel Jones about that. He won't talk about it publicly, but that's,
Those of us with
the O-line.
eyes.
Yeah. And so, I know you're going to hit the numbers, but, nearly 6 yards a carry and Superman hurdling backwards through the air and things like that. Very impressive. But I think with Kellen Moore, you don't have to trick things up with this offense and the way that they're able to control the game with the run. And one thing about that run game came across this note, which I found was interesting, is when you have a good run game and you get good results on first down and don't fall behind the sticks, it's easier to sustain those drives.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what they've been doing. In fact, the Eagles lead the NFL with the most drives of 10-plus plays. So they're keeping their defense rested on the side. They're able to go down, and they're just out of top 10 in scoring. And so they can do better in the red zone. They're kind of middling in the red zone. But the fact that with that run game, they are able to sustain those drives and play keep away, that's incumbent upon the Cowboys offense that when they do get the ball on Sunday, you got to do something with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What was the question? Sorry.
I'm sorry, Kellen Moore. What
Kellen Moore.
You liked with
Yes,
what Kellen
no,
Moore?
my answer was going to be the same thing. I was actually surprised with what he did with the run game. And honestly, the more that I look at it, the more I think it might just be having Saquon Barkley and him being behind an offensive line that allows him to do his thing than it is necessarily Kellen Moore being a genius. But I wasn't expecting him to really know what to do with the running back. And they have one of the best rushing attacks in the league. So there you go. And then also the fact that well, this is actually kind of related. It's like, two sides of the same coin. Because of their reliance on the rushing attack, Jalen Hurts isn't throwing the ball. Well, sometimes he does, but he doesn't have to throw the ball 30, 40 times.
Right.
Against Jaguars, he only threw it 20-something times. And so when he does throw it, it does seem to be very intentional, like it's done with a purpose. Like they're doing it when they have to get a certain amount of yards. And so I think that has a lot to do with the lower amount of interceptions because he doesn't have to throw it. He doesn't have to take as many risks. And whenever he does throw it, he's doing it on reliable plays that are intended to extend the drives, And so, yeah, when Kellen Moore was here, the offense was breaking records. Dak was breaking records for number of attempts, number of yards, and that doesn't seem to be the case with Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. So I think those two things, they go hand in hand, but that's what surprised me about what Kellen Moore is doing over there.
Yeah, the other thing about relying on the run, when we mentioned A.J. Brown, the knee injury was last week against Jacksonville, but what Jazz was alluding to earlier was he missed 3 games earlier in the season with a hamstring injury. So not having the primary target, certainly affects what they're trying to do in the passing game.
Yeah, Jazz had mentioned also about Jalen Hurts, and when you look at what he has done, right now he's tied for NFL lead with 12 offensive touchdowns, and since week 6, he's ranked second in passing yards and attempts, second in passing touchdowns. Passer rating is third in the NFL amongst quarterbacks. First in giveaways because he has not turned the ball over. So, you love what Jalen Hurts does, but as far as his mobility is something is also a threat. He doesn't do it as much, I would say, as more so years prior, but it still poses a threat as far as what he does do best. How concerned are you guys with just the different things that Jalen Hurts is able to do?
It has to go with lane discipline and your pass rush and things like that. And by the way, with the tush push, Jacksonville stopped him on twice last week on 4th down conversions. I was shocked.
The league
one
is
time
catching up to that move.
Yeah, maybe so. But they also don't have Jason Kelsey anymore at center. But I was shocked that they were stopped twice in the same game. But Jalen Hurts, gosh. That he scares me more with his legs, frankly, than although Smith and Brown and Calcaterra is playing well in Goddard's absence at tight end. But when you have the run game, what we talked about when we talked about the Cowboys' lack of run game this year, the quarterback's best friend, the passing game's best friend is to have a good run game, right? And the defense having to respect your run game and your play action pass working off of that because they're having to play people in the box or they're having to respect the run. And the Cowboys haven't been able to establish that on offense this year. Much better job at Atlanta last week, certainly with the run game, but when you're number 2 rushing attack in the league and defenses have to, that's always the saying, stop the run first. Yeah. And it's not just lip service. It's absolutely the case against the Eagles.
For sure, and it starts with this offensive line. Like you both ladies have mentioned, is there anyone on the offensive line that concerns you the most or makes you like,
on their offensive line?
I feel it. On their offensive line, not
Lane
Cowboys.
Johnson?
Lane Johnson is their Zach Martin. Now, I know Zach Martin is a right guard and not a right tackle, but he's, he'll be in the Eagles Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I mean, he's fantastic. But the thing is, over on the left side, if there's an opportunity, I mentioned Jordan Mailata being out. So a guy named Fred Johnson, who's just as big as Mailata, but less experienced, he has been playing in his place, and he came back in the game but missed a little bit of time, got banged up, I think it was ankle or lower leg. But it'll be interesting to see if he is listed as limited in practice this week, but he may be a little bit banged up. So if you're saying, who concerns you on the offensive line for the Eagles, or where do you think some of the matchups might be? It's going to be on their left side anyway, because Lane Johnson's so good on the right side. But especially if he's not 100% and he's the backup already, that could be opportunities for the Cowboys, and especially if Micah Parsons is back this week.
Pass rush will be crucial. We actually heard from Micah Parsons today at locker room. Christy, just some of the biggest takeaways from hearing from him talk. How confident are you that he could possibly be back? Or
he didn't absolutely say I'm playing. It's it's tolerance. It's and when he comes back, it's not just for the sake of coming back. It's not going to be a workload where he's going to be necessarily on a pitch count. If he's healthy enough to play, and that's what he said today. If I'm playing, I'm playing. Yeah. And so I'm not completely confident yet because you're limited on Wednesday. Let's see how you do Thursday and Friday. Yeah. Because feel all right. I've been rehabbing and feeling pretty good on Wednesday. How do you feel the next day? Yeah. So I'm not trying to, we just have to be realistic, and we're really not going to know till the end of the week. And I wouldn't be surprised if it were even a game day decision.
If that happens, what y'all think about Carl Lawson on one side, Micah Parsons on the other? Do y'all like that?
I like the idea of it. I think whether or not it turns out to work well will depend a lot on how close to 100% Micah Parsons is. So, but I mean, Carl Lawson has had a couple of good games in a row, and Micah Parsons, we know what he's able to do whenever he's at his best, and how good his instincts are. So I think there's some potential there for him to do a lot of the things that he did with D-Law. Some of my favorite moments to watch with Micah Parsons and D-Law, or when people would be running away from Micah and they would run straight into D-Law, and it's like, there's really nowhere you can go, and it would just be funny to watch people realize that that's what happened. And so I think the potential for those moments is exciting. It would definitely be a bright spot for fans to look towards, but how it actually plays out will depend on what this recovery process has been like for Micah and what he's like coming back.
Yeah, and the thing that I would like to see, not just Lawson on one side, Parsons on the other, heck, put Golston over there and let's have Micah moving around and maybe even some A-gap. Let's have a mug. Let's have him come up the middle, because I mentioned Jason Kelsey's not the center anymore. Cam Jurgens. So let's see, because what's the one thing that any NFL quarterback doesn't want is
pressure
in
up
his
the middle.
face. Yeah.
I like that. All right, a little razzle dazzle, Christy. Hopefully they listen to you over there on the football side. But all right, we'll be right back. We're going to take our first break here on Girls Talk, Boys Talk.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby! The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that 6th ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
The Dickey family always mandated that the only Polish-style sausage worthy of their restaurant must have high-quality coarse ground beef and pork, rich spices, and fresh natural casings. We still serve it to this day, and it's so popular, Dickey's sausage has been named the official sausage of the Dallas Cowboys. The perfect matchup on game day. Dickey's Barbecue Pit. No one outsmokes us. Order at dickeys.com. For groups, call 866-BARBECUE.
Dibs on the ribs.
'Tis the season for youth football and dance camps presented by Invisalign. Don't miss your chance to learn from the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders at dance camps on December 23rd and former NFL players at football camps on December 23rd and 27th. Celebrate the holidays with the Cowboys. Register today at dallascowboys.com/camps.
Camps. Chrissy,
Sounds
you know
fun.
a lot about those.
Yeah, well, hey, it's the perfect gift for the young person who wants to play football at AT&T Stadium and at a youth camp or dance with the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. So that's a gift idea. So you go online and under fans and youth camp, and that's a good present. I would
time I
have
do one
loved
of
that
those,
as a
I
kid.
mess
I
up
would
a
have
word.
loved it as a kid.
You know what would be another good present?
What?
A W?
W. Wow. Ding, Jazz. Ding.
Hopefully by
Jazz,
December
ding.
23rd, we have at least one more W.
There we go.
There we go.
There we
This
go.
Sunday. This Sunday. Let's go.
Let's talk about it. All right, you guys mentioned Eagles have the second-ranked rushing offense in the NFL right now, led by Saquon Barkley. Just talk a little bit about what he does well. I mean, obviously the physicality, how explosive he is. Then someone, I think it was Patrick Nosey Walker, who had said, like, he looks like, Josh Rodriguez earlier. He had mentioned, I feel like he's back looking like his rookie season, which I could agree with as well. Just talk about, the real problem that Saquon Barkley presents for this defense.
So, what I'm going to say is there's some numbers linked to it.
Go for it.
So I looked up his rushes this is just from the Jaguars game, but I felt like that was pretty representative of what he tends to do. So first one was 6 yards, then 4 yards, then 4 yards, then 2 yards, then 7 yards, then no yards, then 11, -2, then 2, then 7, 2, 2, -2, then 8, then 19, then 13, and then 4, 1, 4, 10, 9, 0, 21 to, and then there's some more. He rushed like 27 times.
Yeah.
Anyway, my point is, he although his average is pretty high, like 5 point something yards per carry, when I noticed that some of those carries were for a really big amount, and others were for some of them were negative or no yards. Like I always say, I like watching film not because I'm just this like great film watcher or analyst, but it gives context and numbers. And so one of the things that I noticed was that as amazing as he is, especially once he gets into space, he still does rely on his offensive line to open up the second level, right? So when it comes to Saquon Barkley, obviously tackling is going to be important. Against the 49ers, there were some situations where there were missed tackles by our guys, where they just overshot, over pursuit. At times, they definitely can't afford that against Saquon Barkley. He will take advantage. And we know that he can jump over tackles, he can spin out the way, so they're going to have to be definitely on their guard. But I think when it comes to thinking about how to handle Saquon Barkley, it's less about, who's on him, and it's more about the defense doing their jobs, the defensive line, making sure that they're occupying the offensive line, not letting them get to the second level. The linebackers, they're going to have good gap discipline, because basically they are able to take advantage of any mistake. So it won't be just one person's job. It's going to be all of those guys being on the same page, making sure that they're watching their assignments and executing. That word that we keep hearing this season, fundamentals, is going to be essential, because I don't think you're going to stop him every time, but if you can lower the number of times he's getting 10 plus yards, 5 plus yards, that might help you a little bit. Maybe it puts a little bit more stress on some of the other offensive pieces, because dealing with him is bad enough. And if he gets going, then you got Jalen Hurts, right? Mm-hmm. So it's yes, Saquon is definitely a threat, but what he allows the offense to have the freedom to do, I feel like, is the bigger threat. So they've just got to try to minimize those huge runs, and I think they can have a shot, if they do that, of having a good showing against the Eagles.
Yeah, the numbers that you were reading on the distance of the runs, you notice that the numbers got bigger as the game went on.
Yeah, he'll wear down the defense.
And out of so 6 runs last week of 10 plus yards, and most of them came a little bit later, indicative of several things, but one of them is the commitment to the run.
Yeah.
And they did get off to a lead. They did get off to a lead against Jacksonville, so they were able to, even though they nearly surrendered it in the fourth quarter, but so they stick with the run, and when you have those runs of 10 plus yards, it wasn't all just him free and clear. It's yards after contact, because he can be a physical guy. So I think Jack's absolutely correct. The fundamentals and the tackling, not just the wrapping up individually, the correct angles. And what did Mike Zimmer say on Monday? There were 15 missed tackles by the Cowboys defense in the loss at Atlanta. So obviously that's a point of emphasis this week is wrapping up and the tackling, taking the correct angles, but swarming to the ball and the teammates on that, because just a one-on-one. The other thing is, an issue has been the defensive tackles keeping the linebackers clean, right?
Right.
And so if it's going to happen any week, it needs to happen this week.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And we saw them work on tackling at practice, and I think they did get a little bit better at wrapping up. I feel like a lot of the issue now is moving targets, which Saquon Barkley definitely is. So I think in addition to worrying about wrapping up, it's like they've got to come at him with malicious intent. Like, you have to be prepared to hit him hard and bring him to the ground, because if you give him just a little bit of leeway, he's gonna take advantage. In a lot of situations, it's not even one person taking him to the ground. There's a lot of situations where it has to be multiple people from running back, and they're starting to use him in the passing game. Like, he had 3 or 4 attempts.
Man.
That
last
touchdown
week.
catch,
Yeah,
what a beautiful catch he made. No, it was great. He looked like a receiver.
It was
great
beautiful,
adjustment, and looking it in, it was a great play.
But it's the last thing that you want to see as a team that's about to face them is okay, the guy who feels like he's the biggest offensive threat because of what he does as a runner. Oh, now he's catching passes too. Great.
Well, when you see what the Cowboys were able to do with Bijan, even though he rushed for, I believe, 80-something yards last week, it was still somewhat of a good job of containing him a little bit. But when you do talk about, the defensive line having to occupy the Eagles' offensive line, freeing up the linebackers, and they have to be gap sound, does it make you nervous a little bit about a guy like DeMarvion Overshown who he flies all over the field and he plays so aggressively, but when you talk about those missed tackles and how sure you have to be, does it kind of make you nervous a little bit?
Yes, because we've seen him over pursue.
Yeah.
And if there's anybody who I feel like could keep up with Saquon Barkley, it's Overshown, right? I've called him lightning personified. But he has fallen victim to the over pursuit, especially as of late. I feel like it wasn't as bad in the beginning of the season. I'm going off memory, not analytics, so I could be wrong. But, he's had some situations of over pursuing and missing tackles. And luckily there have been, in some of those situations, someone to kind of clean up after him. But Saquon's a little bit of a different monster, even from Bijan. So we'll see how that goes. But, yes, it does make me nervous.
3 tackles for loss for Overshown last week and second on the team in tackles overall. So, hey, just keep flying to the ball, but maintaining discipline in terms of, gaps and things like that. So not setting the edge, things like that, Yeah, right.
What do you feel like their tight ends do well? No Dallas Goedert. Let's talk about Grant Calcaterra. What do you feel like he does well?
Not saying that he's Dallas Goedert, but he's putting up good numbers.
Yeah.
And can't speak to his blocking ability. Haven't studied him that much, but they're still having success with the run game.
There was something that I actually saw with his blocking. He manhandled a Jacksonville defensive end, Eric Armstead, and one of their linebackers at the same time, drive him downfield. So that's something that kind of impressed me, is that their tight ends do block very, very well.
Well, and that's the thing. Whenever you have a good rushing offense, and think about San Francisco 49ers. Yeah. Excellent downfield blocking from the Kittles of the world and the receivers. And so that's something, again, keep your linebackers clean so they can make the play. Because if they get beyond that, they're good at the downfield blocking and those yards after contact. That's how that piles up.
All right, who will it come down to defensively for this Cowboys team when you talk about having to stop this Eagles offense?
It might sound a little bit cliche, but I almost want to say Eric Kendricks, just because of the responsibility of the green dot. While we're not talking about one of those super confusing offenses, we are talking about a situation where it's going to be really important for everyone to be on the same page and to know what they should be doing and should not be doing. So him being the guy to kind of keep everybody organized, I think, is going to be really important. Outside of that, we've seen some good games from Osa and Chauncey, so I think we're going to need some more good performances from them. Just kind of putting that on their shoulders, since they've been some of the best performing guys. I think they're going to kind of set the tone for what the defensive line does or doesn't do, because you can see statistically how different their results are whenever they're on their game versus when they might make a mistake or have a slip up. So
this is a great test for the defensive tackles. Osa, Mozzie, Linval, Joseph, whoever's in there, because the Cowboys play a big rotation there on the inside as well as a defensive end. But this is a game where you want Kendricks to be your leading tackler and not your safeties, because guys are getting past the second level. But those guys have to keep the linebackers clean in this game.
I was going to go Donovan Wilson. I say that because when you see him come up to the line, play closer to the line of scrimmage, you see what he's able to do. He recovered, obviously, the sack fumble last week, forced by Carl Lawson. So I want to see a little bit more of that. Maybe have him down in the box more. In the box a little bit more, just to bring some extra help for Saquon, because it's definitely going to be a challenge. But all right.
I love your idea on that. Yeah. Could see
sure.
that this week.
All right, we're going to take our next break, and up next, we're going to play a little matchup game. Dun, dun, dun. All right, we'll be right back with more Girls Talk Boys Talk, presented by Invisalign. We'll be right back with more.
The Dickey family always mandated that the only Polish-style sausage worthy of their restaurant must have high-quality coarse ground beef and pork, rich spices, and fresh natural casings. We still serve it to this day, and it's so popular, Dickey's sausage has been named the official sausage of the Dallas Cowboys. The perfect matchup on game day. Dickey's Barbecue Pit. No one outsmokes us. Order at dickeys.com. For groups, call 866-BARBECUE.
Dibs on the ribs.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby. The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that sixth ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
Capture a frame-worthy family holiday photo with Santa at the Star, presented by Monument Realty. Santa will be spreading holiday cheer at his Cowboys-themed cottage in the Star District from November 22nd through December 24th. For more information and to book your visit, head to thestardistrict.com/Santa.
/Santa. Okay, so how old were y'all until y'all stopped believing in Santa?
I don't think I ever did really believe in Santa.
Really?
It just didn't make sense to me. The whole story didn't make sense. And then it's like, we didn't have a chimney at my house growing up. So I was like, okay, so where does he come in at? It just didn't make sense. And then I started looking up the mythology related to Santa Claus and Saint Nick and all that. And I was like, okay, see, this actually makes sense. And that was what I kind of went with.
Oh, dang. I think I was
This is a
13.
family-friendly show, so you can't. There are kids listening, so
sorry.
don't say anything about.
My bad. I still
Just because I don't believe in Santa doesn't mean I'm right.
Very true. All right, we're going to switch gears a little bit. All right, the injury report just came out from the Cowboys and the Eagles. Some things to note. You have Trayvon Diggs, who was limited. Tyler Guyton, limited. Eric Kendricks did not participate today. CeeDee Lamb, limited. Zach Barton did not participate. Oh, it's Wednesday, so it is also a veteran rest day. Let me note that. Micah Parsons limited today in practice. And you look over to the Eagles. You have A.J. Brown limited. Saquon Barkley limited. Devontae Smith did not participate. Dallas Goedert was a full participant. That's something also to really note. And let's start there, actually. Dallas Goedert. Mm-hmm. Full participant in practice.
Yeah, because
what does that do?
Well, he hasn't played since week 6, so to have him back at tight end, we mentioned Calcaterra has done an admirable job filling in for him, but that would be a big plus to get him back.
Yeah, and what you think
about him specifically?
Yeah,
pretty much same. I mean, the only thing that pops into my head is, considering how good Calcaterra has done, I wonder if they're going to try to use both of them, or if it'll
a lot of 12. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or if it'll just end up being mostly Goddard out there. But I mean, that's definitely going to be a benefit. I guess something else we can attribute to Kellen Moore. He's done a really good job of using those guys and getting them to actually play solid roles in the offense.
Yeah.
So.
Something that I did notice is they've played a lot more 11 personnel, 13 personnel as well. So it would be interesting to see how they kind of work Dallas in there. Let's go ahead and play our little matchup game.
What is NIR rest?
So non-injury rest. So that means Veteran Day. So
Saquon not hurt. Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm. Eric Kendricks has been dealing with a shoulder and a calf. Zach Martin dealing with stuff, but they generally don't practice on Wednesdays anyway.
Okay.
So for kind of Veteran Rest Day.
I didn't know they did that too. Okay.
All right. So who we got? Who has the advantage? All right. I'm going to throw out 2 names, and y'all go ahead and choose who got the advantage. All right. Eagles tight end Grant Calcaterra and Cowboys linebackers.
Just the linebackers
Just
in
the
general?
linebackers
In general. Wow, that's interesting. And throw in Mukwamu on that too, in case they have him match up on that. So,
Okay.
Bigger bodied guy, cornerback, but move inside and play on that. So, draw.
Okay.
Can I chicken out and say draw?
Fine.
If
just on
we
this
can,
one.
I'm going to say that.
Okay, just on this one. Next one. Devontae Smith, Jordan Lewis.
So that means Well, Devontae not practicing today with a hamstring. That could bode well for the Cowboys.
I feel like
because
Jordan
he's been
Lewis
their
is-
leading receiver this year with A.J. Brown missing games.
Yeah.
Jordan Lewis has just been so solid
He
this
has.
year that I want to give it to him by a little bit. It's hard to say because none of these guys play in a vacuum, you know. So of course his play will depend on some other elements, but I'm gonna give it to Jay Luke because if I'm gonna give it to anybody, it's gonna be Jay Luke.
Yeah. It depends on the pass rush, right? If it can
Right.
affect Hurts and
Very
yeah.
true. All right. Dotes. I'm sorry. I literally butchered this typing
Dotson.
so fast. Dotson.
I did the same thing.
Wow, I was typing so fast. Johan Dotson, sorry, and Trayvon Diggs.
Trayvon's actually been playing really sound as well. He's gotten better at tackling. What do you think is the biggest drawback to Trayvon Diggs' game right now?
Tackling for sure.
You think it's still tackling?
Absolutely. I
Well,
feel
yeah,
like
out
he's
of
still-
everything he does, it's still tackling.
I think he's still playing cautious, which as is expected, with an injury like that. But I think that has been one of the weaknesses to his game.
I would say so too, just because he's so good at other things, even though he's getting better, that's still not his strongest point. I would say that and just his ability to see other things kind of puts him in a position where sometimes he's trying to help out other people. So, I don't know. I'm going to say he's learned his lesson. I'm going to go Diggs.
Yeah, I'm going Diggs on this too. I mean, Dotson, he's got 7 receptions this year, so he's kind of down the pecking order. But what will help Diggs the most is the same thing that'll help Lewis or Kalen Carson is get some pass rush.
Yeah. Kalen Carson, A.J. Brown.
I'm going to give that one
Yeah.
to AJ.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
given. All right. Grant Calcaterra versus Chauncey Golston. And I only say that when it comes down to like them in pass pro. So who you got?
Oh, that's a good one.
I know, right?
That's really good.
That's a really good one.
Wow, that's tough because, just because Calcaterra's probably chipping and helping. So if it were one-on-one, I'd say
Yeah.
Golston, but the fact that Golston's also dealing with either Fred Johnson on the left side or Lane Johnson on the right side.
Johnson & Johnson.
Matt Calcaterra, I guess. on that.
Calcaterra.
Yeah,
All
well,
right.
just, no offense.
I think
to-
Calcaterra will get the job done with his chipping, but I think Chauncey will figure out how to be effective in his role as well. He's one of the more fundamentally sound people on the defense, which is something I definitely respect about his game. So yeah, I can see them both doing their jobs really well, but I think ultimately Calcaterra is going to be closer to an A grade at what he does than Chauncey will be at what he does. Is that fair without calling it a draw?
Yeah. All right. What about Calcaterra and Carl Lawson? What if he's chipping Carl Lawson?
I think it's the same thing.
Same.
I mean Lawson with the 2 sacks last week. Hopefully he's able to continue that momentum. But yeah, that's tough. I think it's kind of for the same reasons. Yeah.
All right. Their center, Cam Jurgens, Mozzie Smith.
Cam. Mozzie's been getting pushed off the line of scrimmage the past couple of weeks. And, if he fixes that, please give me a reason to come in and apologize next week. I would love that. But the way that he's been getting pushed backwards off the line of scrimmage, that's the last thing that you want to see from your nose tackle. And so I can't in good conscience believe that, that he's going to actually all of a sudden just do better against Cam Jurgens,
Okay.
Yeah, I think you have to give props to the anchor of an offensive line of an offense that's second in the league in rushing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Fred Johnson, Chauncey Golston.
Golston, especially if Johnson. I know he practiced today, but
Yeah.
he, leaving that game last week and coming back in, he was hop a little bit in that game, and Johnson is the backup to Mailata, so that's why he's playing. So, of course, Golston is the backup too. So it's backup versus backup, but I'll take Golston on this
I'm
one.
gonna give it to Chauncey.
Okay. All right. Johnson, Lawson.
Same thing, Carl Lawson.
Carl Lawson?
Yeah.
What do you think? We agree on that
I
one?
think so too. Lawson's on an upward trajectory in this game. I feel like he's going to keep that going.
Lane Johnson, Chauncey Golston.
Oof. Lane Johnson is a brick wall. Like,
Yeah.
I think Chauncey will do his best.
I'm weak.
But yeah, I see Lane Johnson winning those.
All right. Lane Johnson, Carl Lawson. Same thing?
Yeah.
All right, that was easy. All right. Real fast. Was what Carl Lawson did Sunday in Week 9 against the Falcons enough to see that he could be one of the top pass rushers on this team, aside from Michael Parsons, aside from DeMarcus Lawrence, because right now we ain't got them?
Yeah, I think that was kind of the hope coming in because look at what Dorrance Armstrong and Dante Fowler were able to do last year as part of that rotation. They put up good numbers when you get 5 or 6 sacks a season and you're not the starter, and that's what it was supposed to be for Lawson once they brought him in to training camp. So, I see him once they get, if and when they get DeMarcus Lawrence back, but get Micah back, then because it helps when you can come in fresh, right? The way that they were able to use Fowler and Armstrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the best outside of those two. I would say he's shaping up to be that. If he continues on the trajectory that he's on right now, absolutely. I think the performance that he had last Sunday is like one of the things that's giving some people hope about this defense. I know everybody say we're being negative, but like when it comes to some of the things that give people hope about this game, I would say the fact that the Eagles are playing down and the fact that we're starting to see some bright flashes from players like Carl Lawson is a couple of things that people will mention whenever they talk about like, okay, if the Cowboys do win, how would they do it? And it would be a good game by guys like him.
We talk about the hope for this game. Certainly, I feel like we've been saying this every week since Week 1. The sense of urgency, must-win game. Okay. When you talk about this being that another must-win game for this team, do you feel like this could change the whole trajectory of the season if they don't win this game? And how much of a sense of urgency do you feel like they need to have going in?
Oh, the urgency is there. There's no doubt about that. Everyone understands. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so
everyone understands.
The thing is, sorry, were you done?
No,
My bad.
I'm with it.
The thing is, for a lot of fans, the season is over, but these guys still want to win games. I think until they're mathematically eliminated, what we've got in the Cowboys locker room is a lot of competitors who are literally going to do everything in their power to see what they can do and see what they can make out of this season. That's why you have people with a sprained AC joint talking about they want to play. That's a different conversation for a different day, actually, tomorrow, since we'll be talking about Cowboys offense. But I think it'll change the trajectory because of the fact that you're going to have Cooper Rush in the game. I know we're talking about Cowboys defense today, but I think between having Cooper Rush in the game, between some of the realizations about what's working and not working on defense, I think people are looking forward to seeing some of those mistakes be corrected. Like even what you mentioned about Dono and him being in the box a little bit more. That's something that people are really starting to speak up about. Just like, hey, that's where he's best. Like maybe like if we're not going to change the personnel, can we change up the scheme and put him there if he's going to be more effective there? So I do think, especially considering the fact that so many people are expecting, not only in the Cowboys fan base, but just in the media in general, so many people are expecting the Eagles to win. I think if the Cowboys do win, it's going to open up a lot of conversations about like, okay, what went well? What does this mean for Cooper Rush and him being in the quarterback role for the next few weeks? What does this say about the defense and them being able to get the Cowboys to win despite this crazy rushing attack? Like, if you think about all the things that would have to go right for them to win, that would be a crazy conversation to have after a win.
Realistically, what are y'all's odds that they will win this game?
If they don't shoot themselves in the foot, then this is a winnable game for sure. They've beaten the Eagles 6 times in a row at AT&T Stadium. The Eagles, like I say, they couldn't close out Jacksonville last week. The Cowboys defense, 2 weeks in a row has gotten 3 and outs in the fourth quarter to give the offense a chance to win the game. So, but this is going to be one of those things. You have to get takeaways, and you have to improve in the red zone, offensively and defensively. And so everyone knows what the issues are. Is this going to be the week that they stop shooting themselves in the foot, that they make third down conversions, that they actually score touchdowns in the red zone and not settle for a Brandon Aubrey field goal? So do 2 of those 3 things, and you've got a real shot.
All right. Well, we will. Oh, what you had?
I was going to say agreed. I was just going to add in the penalties, getting the tackles right. It's hard to say what the odds are, but it's going to depend on the Cowboys cleaning those things up and also getting the Eagles to make a few mistakes, which they can make. When the last time Cooper Rush went on a win streak for the Cowboys, they had a different O-line and a different run game, and that's still something that they're going to need in order for them to be successful. So I guess that's a little sneak peek for tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, we're going to wrap things up here on Girls Talk, Boys Talk. Tomorrow we'll be back here in the SWBC studio at 4 p.m. with more Girls Talk, Boys Talk.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!